So, to most accurately set up this story, I guess I have to express how eccentric my friends are. First off, there's Brad, whose majority of clothes are from Goodwill. Jason, who has never, and I repeat never, given a fuck about others' opinions of him. There's Kev, the boy wonder who at age 11 gave himself a cigar burn on the ass. And finally there's Sterrett, who I guess is pretty normal. So these four guys, along with me, had this incredible idea of bringing rollerblades up with us to college and jokingly referring to ourselves as Blade House while raising hell late at night cruising around campus. Oftentimes, we would even venture off campus where other drunken college students would exuberantly welcome us into their homes and frats. One night, we even found ourselves on AZD's sorority floor, where we met some great girls. It was a warm night in early September when our shenanigans reached their peak, and I'll let some of the guys who were there with me that night tell you their take on those events.
Ian's first time rollerblading. I remember when he first got on those things, he was like a newborn calf. His legs were twitching, he couldn't hardly stand. But, he persevered. He still went out with us. So we had a group of like 4 guys, and we were going down. We went up towards DP Doe. Bird the whole time was falling and just making a scene. We had to wait for him a bunch of times. I remember it was really just kind of a nuisance, but it was funny to watch, so we let him tag along. Once we got up to DP Doe, we met up with some girls, and they loved the idea of 4 guys on rollerblades, because, nothing cooler than that. So we're talking to them. Bird's having a hard time standing. And he's like really motivated to get better at rollerblading. So he's like trying his own stuff, kind of off from the crowd, but he's really determined. So then we decide that he can't just join our rollerblading crew just like that. So he has to pass some sort of initiation. Because we're kind of like a frat in that, you don't just join us easily. You have to pass the test. We need to make sure you're a good quality soldier for this elite squad. So we send him down Shortledge Hill. We'd make him tuck and just bomb it, just go straight down. And it's pretty late in the night, so there's not really any cars, so it's kind of safe. Not really. So he does it. Ballsy move, if you ask me. I wouldn't have done it. So he takes off, right? He approaches some sort of obstacle in the road. I think like a pothole or something. And he decides to just jump off the road. He somehow jumps up onto the side of the curb, which was a very like experienced move for such an amateur. And then he just runs smack into the wall of some store. Like the corner of a wall. Like, I don't know how he lived, to be honest. He wasn't wearing a helmet. Honestly, I thought he had a concussion. But we come down and there's not even a scrape on him. He put a dent in the wall, I think, but his head was fine. He was still chipper old Ian, full of jokes and life. And so we let him into the club, and he's been raising hell ever since. So that's his story of the night he conquered Shortledge.
So, that day, one of our friends got a text message from this girl that he met saying that they wanted to hang out with Blade House, our fake rollerblading club, per se. Anyway, just a bunch of us guys who like to put rollerblades on and mess around, mac on some chicks. Well, one day, we got a text from this girl that they wanted to hang out with us. So we all strapped on our rollerblades and our Hawaiian shirts and really ridiculous outfits, and we went up to DP Doe to meet them. And while we were there, they were eating food, so we rollerbladed around in the parking lot for a little bit, messed around, doing stupid little tricks for a little bit. So, as they were eating, we were talking to them, we were all goofing around, and one of us, yeah. So Ian was a new member to our little rollerblading club. He had never really rollerbladed that much before. He was kind of new. So at the top of DP Doe is like the top of Shortledge Hill. So there's a pretty decent long sloping hill. And as a new rollerblader, we decided to give Ian an initiation, and we all, we started egging more. Come on, Ian, bomb this hill. So eventually, we keep heckling him enough to the point where he decides he's going to rollerblade down this hill. So our friend, who's a really good skater, rollerblades to the bottom, and he's sitting down there. And of course, Ian's gonna do it because the girls are there. They're watching. They're excited. So we all start cheering him on, and like, wouldn't you know, he starts going down this hill, and he starts going real fast. He's wobbling, but he's fine. He's going straight down the hill, and as he gets to the bottom of the hill, we all think he's done it. We're all clapping. We're excited. But as he gets to the bottom, he strays to the right, away from our friend, and he heads toward the curb of the sidewalk. And we're all like, we all get really scared. We don't know what's going to happen. As he gets to the curb, he, by a miracle, steps up onto the curb, flying down this hill, steps up onto the curb, manages to get onto the sidewalk. He's very, very squirrely at this point. His arms are flailing. And as he gets onto the sidewalk, he slams into the wall. So Ian slams into the wall of a diner at the bottom of Shortledge, just smacks into the concrete. His skates fly out from under him, and he lands flat on his back. And at this point, standing on top of the hill, I'm worried. I'm like, we just convinced this kid to rollerblade down the hill, and he broke his arm. I feel terrible. I'm worried about him. That had to hurt. And as we stand there and watch him, he just scrapes himself up, gets up, and he's fine. He's completely fine. We rollerblade down. We see if he's okay. He's laughing. He's doing fine. He has no injuries except for a big, big bruise. It was a very funny scene.
Events. So, I guess it all started with us guys just hanging out, and Brad or Jason got a text from the AZD girls because they were eating at DP Doe's and wanted us to walk them home on our blades. It wasn't really my first time blading, but I wasn't all too competent. I was getting better and better each time I went out, but this would be my first time I ventured off campus. I knew the basics, but I was very shaky, to say the least, on the technique of stopping. So, to begin with, we started the long journey out to DP Doe's, and I was doing fine until I came to the 8th natural wonder of the world, which is the hill they call Shortledge. Somehow I managed to make it to the bottom by grabbing onto light poles to stop myself and going off onto the grass. Since the girls were halfway up the other side of Shortledge, I had to employ the help of a kind dude who didn't mind pushing me up to the sort of landing where DP Doe's, a parking deck, and other businesses are. While waiting for the girls to finish eating, we bladed around the parking deck, and I was feeling pretty comfortable with myself. Eventually the girls came out, and we stood and talked at the top of Beaver Ave side of Shortledge Hill. It was around 1 or 2 in the morning on a Tuesday, and the streets were practically devoid of all cars. Brad was blading in circles in the street, while the rest of us were on the sidewalk. Since he was the best blader of us all, he was the most comfortable on blades, and he said, "Watch this," as he shot down the hill and came back up all in a matter of seconds. He then said, "Hey Ian, you should try that." I was totally against the idea, but after major encouragement from my friends and the girls, along with Brad's reassurance he would go ahead of me in case anything went wrong, I agreed to it. Without a single doubt in my mind, and with my cheering friends behind me, I left my inhibitions at the top of the hill as I glided down at breakneck speeds on my own 2 feet. Everything was going perfect until right about when the hill begins to level out. Right there in my path was a manhole cover, and once I hit it, it redirected me right into the sidewalk. Somehow, by the grace of God, I made it up onto the curb, avoided a pole, but right in front of me was a protrusion from the wall. It was pretty much a square that was just sticking straight out from the storefront right there on Shortledge. In a futile attempt to protect myself, I put up my arm and closed my eyes. I remember bouncing off the wall and landing with my back on the sidewalk. I knew something had to be broken on my body. I thought at first a rib, maybe my arm, and I just stayed on my back. I remember just being surrounded by all the sorority girls as they ran down the hill, and I saw fear in my friends' eyes as they thought they had pressured me into severely hurting myself. Right then, I stood up on my own, and everyone was dumbfounded, even including myself. I checked all over my body for injuries, but all there was a cut on my right elbow. I didn't even feel it. I even bladed home under my own power. To this day, both my friends and I are still amazed I wasn't hurt much more, but I believe it to be dumb luck or possibly some divine intervention.